Ladies and gentlemen, there is drama in the world of evolutionary biology, in the world of ecology, in the world of wildlife rehabilitation. On April 7th, a company called Colossal announced the rebirth of the once extinct direwolf, the world's first successfully de-extincted animal. Those are their words, not mine. They claim that they de-extincted the direwolf. They claim to have done this through genetic engineering. Most evolutionary biologists say, no, you did not de-extinct this animal. Stop exaggerating. Now, just to put things in perspective, this here is Manilow. Manilow is my wife's dog. He's now my dog too. He's grown on me. I like him quite a bit. Despite the human clothing that my wife puts on him, he is a relative of the gray wolf. It turns out that he is more genetically similar to gray wolves than the animals that Colossal has produced are related to dire wolves. So keep that in mind. This little guy right here, full grown, he is more close to a modern wolf than the supposed resurrected dire wolves are to actual dire wolves. Genetically speaking, that is. And genes aren't everything. But knowing this is true, can we really say that the Colossal scientists actually resurrected a dire wolf? Let's do a deep dive into the genetic details that they released in their press release, and then I'll tell you what I think. But first, what is a dire wolf? Dire wolves were massive animals. They were about 25% larger than modern wolves, and they once thrived in the Americas from what is now Canada all the way down to what is now Venezuela. Unfortunately, they went extinct at the end of the last ice age, so roughly 12,000 years ago. Today, the only thing that we have left of the dire wolves are their bones, and in some of those bones, we do have a little bit of DNA, but we don't know what these animals look like in life. We do not know exactly how they behaved. And so it would be awesome, right, if we could bring these things back to life and then study them. That would be absolutely spectacular. So what is it exactly that Colossal says they have done? Before we dive in here, it's worth pointing out that they have not yet published a scientific paper in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. So we're just taking their word for everything. But according to their press release, they took two dire wolf fossils that happened to have DNA that was really nicely intact. One of these fossils was from Ohio. It was dated to about 13,000 years ago, and they were able to find some intact DNA in its tooth pulp. Another one was from Idaho. It was dated to be about 72,000 years old, and it contained some intact DNA in the inner ear bone. What they did is they extracted this DNA, and they used ancient DNA sequencing techniques to piece together the dire wolf's genome. They were not able to do this perfectly. There's a lot of errors in ancient DNA, but they claim that between these two specimens, they were able to piece together a really nice DNA sequence for dire wolves. In that study, they claim to have found that dire wolves are 99.5% genetically identical to modern gray wolves. This is a genuine surprise. Earlier studies based on worse DNA samples did not come to that conclusion. This is new, and so that will be debated in the scientific community. But this is the conclusion that the Colossal researchers have come to. 99.5% similar. Again, for comparison, dogs are 99.8% identical to gray wolves. This genetic similarity gave Colossal researchers an idea. What if we took a cell from a modern gray wolf, genetically modified its DNA so that it matches dire wolf DNA, then we took that DNA and inserted it into a dog or wolf egg cell, and then implanted that egg cell into a dog. If all goes well, and assuming we don't get too many maternal effects, the dog will give birth to dire wolf puppies. At first glance, this sounds very much like Jurassic Park. Sounds pretty awesome, right? But there's a problem. Even though dire wolves are 99.5% genetically identical to gray wolves, modern wolves, a wolf's genome is 2.4 billion base pairs long. If you do the math and you convert their percentages into actual DNA differences, a very important calculation that Colossal somehow forgot to do for us in their press release and on their website, what you find when you convert 0.5% of 2.4 billion nucleotides is that dire wolves have an estimated 12 million DNA differences. And we don't currently have the technology to genetically engineer a mammal and give it 12 million DNA differences. Colossal decided they would take a shortcut. They would study the DNA differences between modern wolves and dire wolves. Of those 12 million mutations, which dozen or so will take a modern wolf and transform it the most into a dire wolf-like animal? In the end, they decided upon 20 mutations. Maybe if it's the right 20, it's okay. But there's another problem. Modern biologists don't currently understand very well how it is that specific mutations will affect an animal's appearance and behavior. We just don't understand this very well. We understand it really well for bacteria, some bacteria, and viruses. In mammals specifically, we're only just now beginning to understand it in mice. And thanks to dog breeds, we're starting to understand it a little bit in dogs as well. But still, it's baby steps. So what Colossal scientists had to do is they had to look at the dog research, and they had to use that as their guide. They also claim that they possess proprietary software that helps them do this even better than what everybody else has. So they say that they have special knowledge. How convenient, right? But even though they have this top secret special software, they had to depend a lot on dog research. Of these 20 mutations that they decided to put in the gray wolf, 5 of those did not come from dire wolf DNA. Instead, 5 of those mutations came from domestic dog breeds. So 5 of the 20 mutations did not come from the dire wolf. This is a shortcut inside of a shortcut. But apparently the people at Colossal think that this is good enough. They inserted these 20 mutations into a wolf cell. 15 came from dire wolf DNA. 5 came from modern dogs, and they then declared to the world that the resulting puppies are, quote, dire wolves. Again, according to their wording, this counts as the rebirth of the once extinct dire wolf. This is the world's first successfully de-extincted animal. Moving on to my analysis. If you define a species by its DNA, then obviously this is not a dire wolf. It's not even close. That said, should we really care about specific mutations? I mean, if you have a car and that car works, do you really care what's under the hood? Does it really matter? This is the argument that Beth Shapiro, the lead scientist for Colossal, this is the main argument she's been making. And she's even published this argument back in 2016. She basically claims that genes aren't really what anyone cares about. If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's good enough. And maybe that's kind of a fair argument, especially if you use the language she uses in her paper. She doesn't claim in these papers that she's trying to resurrect the actual animal. Instead, she claims that she's trying to produce a functional proxy. That's the term she uses, a functional proxy. Okay, but how do you know that you've created a functional proxy? There are 12 million DNA differences, and you only selected 15 and then added 5 more from dogs. There is absolutely no guarantee that these behave, sound, smell anything like real dire wolves did. We can't study these maybe proxies to learn anything about how these actual animals used to live. While I do not agree with Beth Shapiro's philosophy here, she is okay, she's being transparent, but look at what Colossal is doing in their marketing. This is a real video they put on their YouTube channel. It's also on their website, and wording like this is all throughout their press release.
Over 10,000 years ago, a howl was lost to time. But today it returns.
What they are suggesting is that we are hearing the howl of a dire wolf for the first time since these animals went extinct. But we do not know which of the roughly 12 million mutations that Colossal ignored might have affected the sound and behavior of these animals. Remember, they used just 15 out of 12 million dire wolf mutations. 15. You might think that I'm nitpicking here. This is just supposed to be cute and fun, and why am I and so many other biologists making a big fuss about this? Well, it's because we are science teachers, and in science, the truth matters. The whole point of the scientific endeavor is to understand how the world actually works. Science is the collection and documentation of observations and an ongoing, honest debate about what those observations most likely mean. Colossal, at least in their public outreach, they are not doing this. I've seen a lot of people who are excited about this project, and I am excited about this project. There's a lot of really neat implications for wildlife conservation in general. For example, cheetah populations lack genetic diversity. There's a lot of inbreeding in cheetahs, and this is causing problems. The technology that Colossal is developing could be used directly to solve this problem. The advancements they are making are wonderful, and I've noticed that a lot of people who recognize this are bending over backwards to excuse Colossal for their horrible marketing. Over on Twitter, I saw one guy try to rephrase this in a positive way. This is a new thing that we do not have adequate language to describe yet, because it has never existed before. I respectfully disagree with this guy. I think that the English language already does have the words it needs to describe what Colossal is doing here. Colossal's supposed dire wolf is vegan mayonnaise. Sure, vegan mayonnaise isn't real mayonnaise, but it is better than having no mayonnaise at all, right? Furthermore, it's really only the experts that can actually even tell the difference, so who cares? We live in a world of spray-on suntans, and we put vinyl siding with fake wood grain on our houses. Why not just pretend that the fake dire wolf is real? Well, I'm not here trying to be the fun police. If you want to play make-believe, that's fine with me, but please just don't pretend that this is science. The real dire wolf is extinct. What we have today is, at best, a lovable proxy.